It is 1796. A young 26-year-old general, short and with no major commands to his name, is sent to lead the worst army in France. His soldiers are in northern Italy, ragged, starving, and on the verge of mutiny. Many do not even have shoes. His mission is considered a sideshow, a distraction. Everyone expects him to fail, but in just 1 year, this so-called nobody would humble an entire empire, redraw the map of Europe, and forge a legend that still echoes today. This is the story of Napoleon Bonaparte's first campaign, where a political gamble became one of the most brilliant military achievements in history. By 1796, the French Revolution was fighting for survival against a coalition of Europe's great powers, led by Austria. France planned a massive three-pronged attack to knock Austria out of the war. 2 large armies would march through Germany. The third, the pitiful army of Italy, was an afterthought. Its new commander was Napoleon Bonaparte, a young political appointee who had made his name by crushing a mob in Paris with cannon fire. His veteran generals, such as Massena and Augereau, looked at the inexperienced Corsican with disdain. But when Napoleon spoke, they listened. He promised his starving men honor, glory, and riches in the fertile plains of Italy. He had a plan that already carried the stamp of his unique genius. The Austrians and their Piedmontese Sardinian allies outnumbered him if they fought together. Napoleon's strategy was simple: never let them unite. He would strike with speed, break through the mountains, wedge himself between their forces, and crush them one at a time. In April 1796, he put his plan into action. In a whirlwind campaign, he struck the Austrians at Montenotte, then Dago, and quickly turned on the Piedmontese. His enemies were constantly confused and outmaneuvered. Before they understood what was happening, the kingdom of Piedmont Sardinia was forced to surrender. In less than a month, Napoleon had removed an entire kingdom from the war. With one enemy gone, Napoleon pursued the Austrians across Lombardy. The next obstacle was the Adda River, where the Austrians defended the bridge at Lodi with cannons. A frontal attack looked like suicide, but Napoleon was impatient. After an artillery duel, he rallied his men and ordered a charge. Shouting, "Vive la République!" French troops stormed the bridge under heavy fire. At first they faltered, but Napoleon and his officers rushed forward to inspire them. The French surged across, broke the Austrian defense, and seized the bridge. Strategically, Lodi was not decisive, but it was a huge moral victory. Napoleon himself had manned the cannons like an ordinary soldier, and his men began to call him the Little Corporal. It was a title of affection and respect. 5 days later, he marched triumphantly into Milan. The war, however, was not finished. Everything now depended on Mantua, a fortress that controlled northern Italy. Austria launched 4 separate armies to relieve it. The first, under the 70-year-old General Wurmser, nearly defeated Napoleon. Forced to lift the siege and abandon his heavy guns, Napoleon seemed on the brink of disaster. But he turned the crisis into an opportunity. Free of the siege, he concentrated his forces and smashed one Austrian column at Castiglione before defeating the other. Wurmser tried again, advancing down the Brenta Valley. Napoleon struck first, beat him at Bassano, and in a cruel twist trapped Wurmser inside Mantua, the very city he had set out to save. Austria then sent General Alvinci with a third army. This was Napoleon's darkest moment. Outnumbered and exhausted, his forces suffered defeat at Caldiero. His army was on the verge of collapse. Desperate, Napoleon made a final gamble. He marched through marshlands to strike the Austrian flank at Arcole. For 3 days, the fighting raged around a bridge. In one of the most famous moments of his career, Napoleon seized a flag and tried to lead the charge himself, narrowly escaping death. The battle was bloody and chaotic, but in the end, the French prevailed. Austria still had one last chance. In January 1797, Alvinci advanced again, hoping to surround and destroy the French. At Rivoli, Napoleon seemed trapped, with enemy columns closing in from all directions. His staff panicked, but he remained calm. He saw opportunity where others saw disaster. By moving his divisions with extraordinary speed, he crushed one column before it was ready, then turned his artillery and cavalry against another that was stuck in a narrow gorge, annihilating it. Rivoli was a masterpiece of generalship that broke the Austrian army completely. Soon after, the final Austrian relief force surrendered, and Mantua at last capitulated. With northern Italy conquered, Napoleon marched toward Vienna itself. The Austrians, shocked and demoralized, sued for peace. In a single year, Napoleon Bonaparte had transformed a starving and broken army into a victorious force. He had fought more than a dozen battles, defeated 4 Austrian commanders, conquered Italy, and forced a great empire to its knees. More than a general, he was now a political figure, creating sister republics, dictating peace, and sending the treasures of Italy back to Paris. The 26-year-old, who had once been dismissed as a nobody, had become the most famous and powerful man in Europe. His first campaign was complete, but the age of Napoleon was only beginning.